Alright, so I'm actually using the 8th Gen Civic Si that we're giving away to jump off the CRV. So also, if you're interested on the 8th Gen giveaway, we're giving away this 410 horsepower turbo 8th Gen Civic Si. It's 2006, it has 140,000 miles, it's dyno tuned, 410 horsepower. And basically selling a shirt sticker and you get an opportunity to win the car. So if you're interested in that, you can go to thehondaresource.com and get your t-shirt today. Hey guys, it's Philip from the Honda Resource. Thanks so much for joining me on another video. So today we're installing a timing kit on a first generation Honda CRV that's equipped with a B20Z2. So this process is almost identical on the B20B4, which is like out of a 97 to 98 CRV. I think the one we're working on now is a 2000 model. But so same process, basically from 97 to 2001 Honda CRV. And it also be the same for non-VTEC Acura Integra. So the B18 is almost identical to the B20 as far as the timing stuff is concerned. So that would be like applicable to like, I don't know, what, 1990 all the way up to 2001 on the Acura Integra. So it'd be like the LS, the GS, the SE, you know, all those that are non-VTEC. So not the GSR and not the ITR. So those are VTEC. And I mean, I guess at the end of the day, it's almost the same. There's just a few little differences with the VTEC. So anyways, if you saw in the first video, we tore the CRV apart and got it prepared to install our new parts. So came here from the first video, you already know what parts I'm putting on this. So, but this is a Dayco timing kit, and we got a water pump, we got a timing belt, we got a new tensioner, and it also comes with a sticker to record our mileage. So we'll be installing all these parts onto the CRV, and we've already got all the old ones off, and the CRV's up on the lift and ready to be installed. So let's get to it. So, but like I said, this is a new water pump, and the water pump gasket comes with it. It's not pressed into it. So if you see, it has those little spots like right here, and like there's one right there, one right there. So those little spots just help hold the gasket into place. If you're having issues with your gasket falling out, just put a little dab of silicone in the groove and then smush the gasket down into it. I don't really recommend putting any silicone on the actual gasket surface. There's no point in it. This is a self-sealing gasket. So gasket kind of only goes in there one way. So if it don't look right, flip it around and put it on the other way. So anyways, this is the Dayco water pump, and we're gonna get it stuck on there. All right, so for the water pump, there's 5 bolts that holds it on. If you didn't keep record of the 2 that are longer, like this is the top of the pump here, like how it's mounted on the block. So this one will be the longer one, and this one right here will be the longer one. So it's these 2 here that are on my fingers are the longer ones, and then the other 3 are all the same length, and they're the shorter ones. So but now I'm just going to get this mounted up here where it goes. Okay, so here we have the new tensioner. You have to reuse the bolt from the old one and the spring on this particular one. Some kits I've seen do come with a new bolt and a new spring. This particular kit didn't, so we're just going to reuse the old stuff. You'll be reusing, all right, so the spring clips to this little peg right here, and then the other little hole on the tensioner goes over this little hole right, or this little peg right here, and then your tensioner bolts in here. So I'll show you that real quick after I get that installed. Oh, and also you can see I do have the water pump bolted on. If you're into torquing and that kind of stuff, it's like 8.7 foot-pounds. I usually just snug them down with my little electric ratchet and call it good. All right, so I got the tensioner on here. Now it's just finger tight right now. And you can see I got the spring on that other little pin up there, and then on the back side here, that little pin goes through the other hole on the tensioner itself. And so that creates a pivot point. You can see I barely got this even finger tight. Don't tighten it up yet because you got to put your belt on. You need it to be able to move. So the spring's what's going to hold tension on it. And so, yeah. So now what we need to do is put this back in time. So the keyway has to point up, and also you can see there's a little mark on there. I'll get a marker and highlight it just to show you guys better. All right, so you can see there, that line right there represents top dead center, and it's a little groove in the pulley. I just put some paint in it just to highlight it. And then if you see right there's a little pointer on the oil pump, and I put a little yellow paint on that just to highlight it too. So what we have to do is align this mark with that. And to do that, I just take a pair of pliers and turn this crankshaft until that lines up. I have really good luck with like these style pliers. And just don't get too aggressive with it so that you mess up your keyway. Alright, so you just turn it, make sure you got a good grip on it. Right there it is. Alright, so the keyway will be up. You can see how the keyway is up position. And you can see now that line lines up with that little pointer. So that's where it needs to be. So now we'll let the car down and get to the top side and get that aligned up there. Alright, hopefully we'll be able to see this some. There is a mark on these that says up, and it's on like, let me see if I can get another gear. Alright, so this is another camshaft I had just over in my storage area. But as you can see, like what I was talking about, having a mark on it says up. So I have a mark right there that says up, and it also has a little line, little ticks on it, like right there and right there. So they'll line up with each other on, like say if this was the intake cam and the exhaust cam would be like over here where my thumb is, the marks on those two gears will line up, and then with that pointed up. So we got to get that aligned here, and to do that, since it broke the belt, they are out of alignment. So just use a 12mm wrench and turn these until we get them where I need them. Now they ain't got to be perfect right off the jump, but we're gonna get them close. You see how that one's wanting to move back, and that's fine. We can get that in the spot where it needs to be here in a second. So anyways, they're both pointed up now, and now we can start installing our belt. But before we install the belt, I gotta take off this mount. So it's just 3 17mm bolts or nuts, 1, 2, 3, and we can get that bolt or that little mount out of the way, and it'll let us put our belt through there. All right, so now I got the 3 nuts off, and this right here will just lift off. You can see that's out of the way. It gives us access to install our belt through here. All right, so timing seems to be something that a lot of people have difficulty with, or they're scared of it, or they simply just don't understand it. So hopefully in this part, I'll really clear up any of that kind of confusion or concerns or anything you have. So to begin with, I'll just take the belt, and I've got to put it through here. All right, now I'm going to set the camera on the tripod so that I can show you how I do it a little bit better. The way I like to do this is go ahead and start it on the crank pulley down at the bottom, because we know it's where it needs to be. All right, and then go over the tensioner. All right, so I realized while I was editing this video that I didn't really get a lot of good visual images of me inserting this timing belt. So basically, this is the belt here and how it's routed. And so start on the crankshaft, go over the idler, and then around the water pump, and then start it here, and then we'll go to this one. So and make sure your lines are marked, your marks on your gears are lined up here. And then obviously the crankshaft, you'll already have that lined up like this. So, but yeah, I just wanted to kind of clear that up in case you didn't know what I was talking about when I said put it over the tensioner and around the water pump. All right, and around the water pump. All right, and then we need to line up our gear where it needs to be. So on ours, it looks like it needs to go towards the front of the truck just a little bit. So like a tooth. So we'll roll it a tooth, and then we'll lock our belt in there like that. We'll check to make sure the marks are level with the head. So it pretty much lines up with the front part of the head here. And it'll also line up with the center part here, but not the top of the plastic. So the top of the plastic comes a little bit higher than the actual deck of the head. So then, because the tensioner is still loose, we can pull up on this belt. Now it may be beneficial to not slide the belt all the way onto this gear. Just kind of keep it out towards the edge for now, like halfway on, just to give you a little more room here. All right, then we'll do the same thing for that one. I'm having a hard time seeing because I'm trying to make it to where you guys are there. All right, that appears to be it right there. And then so once we get that one started, we can get both of them on there. And then we can pull our slack out by turning this one towards the rear. All right, so I think we're good on the timing here. It feels decent tension on the front of the belt. You see it's not slapping, and it feels good on the back. All right, so the way I like to set the tension on it, it just pretty much, I've got a ratcheting 14 here to go on my tensioner. Now I'm not going to tighten the tensioner yet, but what I want to do is grab this cam, the intake cam, and rotate it towards the back just a little bit. And whenever I do that, it's pulling all the tension. So you can see I didn't rotate it a lot, but I rotated it just enough. So while I'm still holding a little bit of tension on the cam, I'm gonna go ahead and tighten the crank pulley. Not the crank pulley, the tensioner bolt. All right, and then it's pretty much set. There's no need to do a bunch of spin arounds on the engine to see if it's gonna get slack in it. This is normal. This is good. So now we just got to reassemble everything else. But the tension is set on it, good to go. So now we just got to reinstall everything else. We got to we'll start by doing the lower timing cover, and I'll do the upper timing cover, the crank pulley, you know, all the stuff. So I guess I'll just put on a little bit of time lapse while I'm doing all that. And if you have any questions about where the bolts go, check back to the first video. I kind of showed everything when I took it off and explained where the bolts went on each piece, so that you'll know. Now there was a few things that were missing from this vehicle when we bought it, such as the intake plenum or the upper plenum, like the chamber box. So I'll cover all that stuff whenever I get to it. All right, also I want to mention that if you do feel the need to rotate the crankshaft and stuff before you tighten down the tensioner and stuff, make sure you turn the crankshaft counterclockwise, so that'll pull all the slack out of this side and put all the slack onto your tensioner side. Now the way I was pulling it, I was going off the camshaft, off of the intake camshaft, and basically that was just pulling the slack back this way, and it's putting all the slack back onto the tensioner side, right? But you can see there how much that yellow mark moved. So that's all the space I moved it to tension it. So, and you can see it's has some play in it, but it's pretty tight. This is how it's supposed to be. And if yours has this much slack in it, it's good. That's how it's supposed to be. Don't be scared. All right, so now we just got to finish putting this stuff back together, and we'll start. So we'll start with our washer, and again, it's concave like a dinner plate. All right, so you want to make sure that the plate, like if it was sitting like, see how it's curved up towards my hand on the outside. So you want that part that's curved up on the outside facing towards the outside of the car. So if it's like this, like a upside down dinner plate, it needs to go in towards the crankshaft, right? Just like so. Now, The B series is great in the thing that it will actually go through the timing cover, but on a lot of the other Honda motors, you can't put that ring on once you put this timing cover on. So if you forget it, you're in luck. You can still slide it on with the timing cover on. All right, so now we need to reinstall our crank position sensor. All right. Kind of hard to do all this mess one-handed. Let me get it on here. All right, so I've got it up here where it's supposed to be. Now it comes with two different size bolts, one's short, one's long. So the long one goes on this side here, goes through the sensor and the bracket and into the oil pump. Now if you have an OBD1 version, it's not gonna have this crank sensor down here. And also sometimes it actually destroys the sensor when the belt breaks. So, all right, so I got both of those on there. Now I just need to tighten those down. All right, and then we reinstall our timing cover with our little shoulder bolts. It's 5 bolts on this one. So we'll go ahead and put those in and get them tight. All right, and then we'll clip our crank position sensor back into this little bracket right there. And then now we can put our crank pulley back on. So to do that, first start with our little keyway. Put it in the groove, like that. And then we'll put our pulley on here, like so. And our bolt. And again, if you're doing this, you can do it with the crank pulley holder tool to tighten that up. I have the Lyle weighted socket, so that's what I'm going to use to tighten it back up with. The pulley tight now, and now I'm going to let the car back down and go back to the top. All right, so then we got to put in our upper timing cover, and it uses these 2 bolts here. They're a longer shoulder bolt, and they just go through and bolt it into the side of the head, and it goes here on the side of the engine. And they're 10mm bolts, or 10mm head. All right, so the next thing I'm gonna do is install my alternator belt, and it just goes on first before the AC or the power steering. All right, so basically the way I tighten it up is there's a little tab right here. All right, I take my pry bar, put behind that, pry out on the alternator. All right, you can see it don't have to be ridiculously tight, but you want a little tension on it. Let's see, make sure my wrench is going the right way. And then just tighten the little 12mm nut. See there, the 12mm nut. So once that's tight, check the tension on it. Feels pretty good to me. And now, we can put the AC belt back on. And again, I didn't take the AC belt all the way off. It was just kind of laying up here the whole time. Now, if you remember, we took the tensioner off, so you may be wanting to install it before you put the belt on. So it's just got this long bolt. It's a 12 head on it, and this goes right back on it. Don't tighten this all the way down before you put the belt on. You can get it kind of snug with your finger. Trying to do the best I can to work around this camera, guys. I'm gonna have to go down here in the wheel well. Put that belt around the crank pulley. Just can't get to it from the top without getting you guys' way. So we got it on there. All right, And then we gotta tighten the little tensioner here on the front, and it will put tension back on our AC belt. All right, and this head of this is a 7mm, so you can use a socket, or in my case I'm using a little wrench, just until I feel it's got decent tension on the belt. All right, so that feels pretty good there. So now what I do is just use my wrench again to lock down the jam nut on the tensioner here. All right, and then you gotta tighten the actual idler or whatever it is here. All right, so now our AC belt is back on. Now we can go ahead and throw it back on our mount. They use this 3 17mm nuts, so it has like a regular one and two that are bigger. So two that are bigger go here, and your one that looks kind of regular goes actually over here where it bolts to the body. So then we can reinstall our power steering pump, and it just mounts right here. Put the reservoir back over into the bracket where it belongs. And it uses 2 bolts like this. All right, and those are both 12mm. I'm not going to tighten those all the way down until I put the belt on. Just getting them kind of snug. Alright, so then I'm taking my belt, slide it through. And on this one it may be easier to go through the bottom to get it on the crank pulley. All right, then to tension the belt, just use a 1/2-inch breaker bar or a ratchet or whatever you have, and it goes into a little spot right here on the pump. You can just pick up on it. You see, I'm just picking up on it, and then while I'm picking up on it, I'll tighten down the lower bolt. All right. No tension set on it. Tighten up the upper bolt, and that's good to go. All right, so I'm installing a new valve cover gasket in order to put the valve cover back on. So I've put the new valve cover gasket on. Now we just have to put a touch of silicone on each of these corners just so it seals real good. And I'm using black. I typically like to use like gray or Honda bond, but black is what I had today, and it will work. So like I said, the black will work, but if I had a preference, I would just choose black. I would choose gray, or like ultra gray or Honda bond. So we put new washers on here. The throttle cable on the B20Z mounts on here like so. And on the back side, it's supposed to have a little bar bracket that goes across here. I'm missing it right now, so I'm going to go ahead and put 2 nuts on there, but I'll have to come back later when I get that bar and put it on there. But right now I need to get 3 nuts and 5 nuts. I can go ahead and get this torqued down. All right, so now I've got the nuts on the valve cover tight, so I just use a short 14 bolt. It holds this bracket on for the power steering pump line. And this goes here on the back of the head. And then we have two little 10mm bolts that hold the power steering line hose onto the pump. All right, and then we put our PCV valve back into where it's supposed to be, like that. We'll hook our vent hose up. Use a pair of pliers. Put the clamp on. All right, and we'll put our plug wires back on. All right, and then I have the plenum that goes on here, but I don't have the gasket. So, anyways, I'll have to get the little bar that goes here, and then I'll have to get the gasket for the plenum. Otherwise, this is done. And I may just rig up something real quick to block off this hole and see if it'll start. So I took a t-shirt. It's not the one I had on, but it's just one I had down here for a rag. Put it over the opening. And basically, using the t-shirt as a gasket. So all we're doing is slowing down the vacuum leak temporarily, just so we can try to start it. So, let's see if it'll start. It's probably got a dead battery, but we can at least try. Oh, actually, I do know it does have a dead battery. Well, all right. All right, so I'm actually using the 8th Gen Civic Si that we're giving away to jump off the CRV. So also, if you're interested on the 8th Gen giveaway, we're giving away this 410 horsepower turbo 8th Gen Civic Si. It's 2006, it has 140,000 miles, it's dyno tuned, 410 horsepower. And basically selling a shirt sticker and you get an opportunity to win the car. So if you're interested in that, you can go to thehondaresource.com and get your t-shirt today. So anyway, back over to the CRV here. I'm gonna see if maybe it'll crank. I don't know if the jumper cables are big enough to actually start it, but we're gonna try. I did make sure it had oil. I have not put any coolant in it yet, but it should at least start. Yeah, I'm just gonna have to let it charge for a minute. I may put a second set of jumper cables on it real quick and see if maybe that will help. All right, so we got a second set of jumper cables on it now, and let's see if that'll help it. All right, so you can hear it's running. I moved the SI back out of the way, and it sounds like it may have a little valve lash chatter. I'll probably do a valve lash adjustment on it too, but if you're interested in doing a valve lash adjustment on yours, you can check it out on my channel. I have a video for that. And yeah, as you can see, it starts up, it runs, not missing, good to go. So we'll do a valve lash adjustment, and this one will be ready to clean up and sell. So that's pretty much it, guys. Now you see that even if your timing belt breaks, such as this one, you can just pick up a timing belt and a water pump kit at the parts store, and you can fix your CRV back up and get it running today. Obviously, there's still a few more things I got to do this, such as a valve lash adjustment. I got to get the gasket for the upper plenum and the little bar that I was talking about to bolt the plenum on. So, I've also got to put some coolant in there. So I'll take the top off to remind myself that, hey, there's no coolant, dummy. But yeah, so I'm gonna throw a battery charge on it real quick, and maybe it'll charge overnight, and maybe I can get these parts for replacement tomorrow to do the rest of it. But it is running, and I'm happy to hear that. There's no misfires or anything like that, so no bent valves, and hopefully this helps you out so that you can get your CRV back on the road and not be gouged by some mechanic who just says, hey, you need a new engine. So try a new belt. You can pick up just a new belt if you just want to do the belt for less than $100 at most auto parts stores, and just throw it on there and try it. I mean, it probably take you, probably take you half a day or so the first go around, you doing it. But typically I can do these, without having to deal with filming and all that jazz. I can probably do a time belt and water pump on this in about, I don't know, about 3 hours, maybe 2 or 3 hours. And it's really not that bad once you know what you're doing. So, like I said earlier though, if you're interested in the giveaways Honda Civic, be sure to check that out on thehondaresource.com, and you can buy a t-shirt and a sticker there. And I'll probably have some more merch coming out soon as well. Thanks for tuning in. Share the video, like the video, comment, and subscribe. Thanks again, guys. See you on the next one. Peace.